Round 3 of Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain is on the Indy circuit here at Brands Hatch. It is going to be a 34-lap all-action race with Will Martin starting on pole position, Adam Smalley with him at the front of the grid, with Gus Burton on row 2 with the championship leader, Matty Graham. Then it's Hugo Ellis and Jack Bartholomew ahead of the reigning Sprint Challenge champion, Theo Edgerton. Cian Jewis is lining up 8th on the grid. 9th is where you find Jake Giddings with Oliver White for company. Charles Rainford starts 11th ahead of Ryan Ratcliffe and Mika Stanley. Will Aspin is 14th and Nathan Harrison will start 15th. The Pro-Am championship leader double winner at Donington. The double Donington Am winner and championship leader Josh Stanton is 16th ahead of Seb Morris after a qualifying crash has put him only 17th on the grid ahead of Angus Whiteside. Then it's Peter Kyle Henney and the returning Charles Bateman. Peter Mangian and serial Am champion Justin Sherwood are on row 11. And the back row, Mark Radcliffe and Nigel Rice. The grid is formed for round 3 of the championship. Green flag shown at the back to say that everybody has returned from the formation lap. Drivers look towards the lights. Will Martin on pole position. The yellow nose car of Adam Smalley second on this 1-by-1 staggered grid as we go racing. Sluggish start by Gus Burton from 3rd. Good getaway by Matty Graham in the black car, the red line car that started 4th. He's up to 3rd, but it is Will Martin then who leads as they turn into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Adam Smalley 2nd, Matty Graham goes 3rd, and Gus Burton has already dropped back into about 6th place as Graham then in the black car attacks on the outside line at Druids. Puff of tar smoke from Oliver White, a Formula Ford 1600 hero, because he tries an unusual line in Porsche terms and it almost works for him as down they drop towards Graham Hill Bend for the first time and along Cooper Straight. Adam Smalley then has dropped back into 3rd despite a decent getaway, and Matty Graham from 4th on the grid runs 2nd, and Will Martin hangs on to the advantage then as they turn their way now up through clearways heading towards Clark Curve. Number 26 Cian Jewis, another good start. He's up into 4th having started 8th on the grid, so Cian Jewis, who really does need points after a disappointing Donington, is going nicely. Over the timing line they come now. End of one lap, Will Martin leads the way. Graham is 2nd, Smalley is 3rd, Jewis in 4th place, and Gus Burton there being elbowed back in the pack, tussling at the moment with Hugo Ellis, with Jack Bartholomew as well as they turn now into Druids. And Jake Giddings gets up on the inside as well, and Giddings goes through. So Gus Burton, having qualified well, remember he did a really good job leading the bulk of race 1 at Donington. He's being elbowed further and further down the order here. Oliver White also in the red and yellow colours, sorry, blue and yellow colours I should say, being elbowed out wide too. Theo Edgerton though, there, look, number 54, squabbling with Nathan Harrison. Edgerton, one of 3, tied on points in the championship lead, but he's got a lot of work to do here. The reigning Sprint Challenge champion qualified 7th, but fell to 14th on the opening lap, so he's got work to do as they break the beam. They start lap 3 now. Will Martin leads Matty Graham by 0.8 of a second. Matty was on British GT duty a week ago in Beluga's GT4 spec, Cayman 718 GT4 clubs, brought now back into these 992 iterations of the 911 GT3 Cup. 4-litre, flat 6, 510 brake horsepower, very serious bits of kit, new this year to the championship. Now right now, race leader Will Martin is starting to edge away from the rest of them. The Comline Richardson racing car building that gap. It was 0.8 of a second last time. There is Will Martin who comes through then in the lead of the race, trying to build this gap all the time. He's taken 3 career wins. He breaks the beam and the gap has gone up to 1.2 seconds. Now 34 laps around here. It's a long way to look after tyres, even on a relatively cool morning like this. Number 5 goes through. That's Mika Stanley just ahead of Oliver White, who's lost a place in fact on that lap. Number 2, Oliver White, new to Porsche racing this year in the Duckham's Yuasa Racing with Redline entry. Teammate to Adam Smalley, who at the moment there runs 3rd. He's on the back of Matty Graham as they sprint their way now up towards the left and right elements of Surtees, and then McLaren looking down from the blimp. Nose to tail, those 2. Cian Jewis in 4th place, trying to get back onto the tail of Adam Smalley. Brilliant shot that, looking down onto the circuit. You can see how the cars flow from one apex to the next. Over the timing line they come now up towards Paddock Hill Bend. The road rises and Smalley closes right up under braking, looks for the tighter line out of the corner to possibly get the run now, heading up towards Druids. There is a gap on the inside, he commits to it, and Smalley goes through up into 2nd place, but he goes deep into the corner, goes wide, loses 2nd, and he's almost lost 3rd as he clatters off the side of Jewis. Downhill they turn, go left at Graham Hill Bend. Well, that's played right into the hands of Graham, because not only has he got the place back again, but he's also gapped Adam Smalley, the Porsche Junior, by a couple of lengths. Cian Jewis not quite able to take full advantage of that. Well, you could see what Adam Smalley tried, but Matthew Graham, who's experienced in these cars, knew exactly what to do, gave him just enough room. He knew that to make that move, Smalley would have to brake so late that he'd get the place back. That's exactly what happened. Adam Smalley goes out wide, and as he regroups, clatters there into the side of Cian Jewis. And that is Adam Smalley, who has had a spin out of third place at Graham Hill Bend. Adam Smalley has lost it. He has thrown away a whole chunk of places. He's back in the race, as you can see, but that is bad news for Adam Smalley. You can ill afford to give away points in this championship, and he's given away a big pot full there, I'm afraid. Right, there's the leader. So Will Martin closing up onto the back of Peter Mangian to put a lap on him. Goes to the inside line. Ooh, no, can't do it there. Peter Mangian busy squabbling with Peter Kyle Henney. And now Will Martin does make the run. A flash of the lights to say, I'm quicker, don't get in my way. Peter Mangian possibly could have latched onto the tail of the race leader there and followed him past Peter Kyle Henney, but did not do so. Right, first panic over. Will Martin has cleared the traffic, and now Matthew Graham in second place has got to do likewise. Really impressive drive this by Will Martin. We've seen him win races in the past. It's his third season in Carrera Cup GB, double winner last year. And now that he's cleared those two back markers, he's pulling away once more. Will Martin, who came out of Ginetta Junior Racing before Carrera Cup, and looking very confident indeed right now. 11th and 7th at Donington, so a race win would be a huge turnaround in fortunes. Matty Graham then in second place, banking more points. He's not going to catch the leader, and banking the points will be a good thing. And now Peter Mangian almost goes defensive against him. Now, does he realise that that is the second place car? Of course, the confusion now is all of a sudden somebody arrives behind you. Am I battling with them? Am I not? Well, Peter Mangian gets the message now, and Matty Graham is allowed through on the inside. He'll have lost time relative to the leader on this lap, but it was a pretty big gap anyway, so in real terms it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. And that's Oliver White, who's now gone rally crossing coming out of Surtees. We've seen Adam Smalley have a spin, and that dropped Adam Smalley way back into 16th place. Now, did Oliver White get there on his own? He did. He just got offline, lost the back of the car, didn't fight it, let it follow its own line across the grass and back onto the circuit. So down towards Graham Hill Bend they turn. That is Jack Bartholomew running 5th overall and 4th in class. Big flash of the lights from Hugo Ellis against Peter Kyle Henney, again to say, let me by, don't get in the way. I'm quicker, and there's more drama down at Graham Hill Bend there. Look, is that Charles Rainford possibly that has been off the road? It's got a look to the livery of Charles Rainford's CCK car, as looking down from the blimp, the leaders up towards the end of the lap. 24 are now in the book as Hugo Ellis turns through, Jack Bartholomew goes through, and these spots of rain that have been threatening all the way through the race still haven't really amounted to anything. They're more of an irritation. That is Charles Bateman, who is off the road and I think has taken the splitter off the car. You saw some bodywork lying on the ground, and there's another one that's had a spin at 25. There you can see is Mark Radcliffe. Now, does this mean that the rain is starting to get worse, or does it just mean that drivers are pushing harder? Certainly Brands Hatch is quicker, and these are very big, powerful cars, so it might be that that's what's catching people out. There's another car on the grass down at Graham Hill Bend. There are 4 of them off at Surtees, so now drivers are getting themselves in all sorts of strife. Again, looking out of the window, it doesn't look that bad, but look at this. Cars arriving backwards at Clearways now. It is definitely getting either wetter or more slippery because someone's put some liquid down, which is possible. Number of cars going off the road, but in terms of the amount of rain, it's still, on our window, is just a few spots. But as you've seen, there are cars going everywhere. And that's the leader who's been off. Will Martin has got heaps of grass at the front of the car. Now, the danger there is that it starts to overheat, and the red flag is being shown. Race stop, red flag. So with potentially the track conditions changing for the worse, the race is being stopped. I've got to say, again, look out of the window, it does not seem to be raining hard at all. But we've had a lap of people skating off the road. That could be, for example, that somebody went over a curb and has damaged the underside of the car and put liquid down, but an extraordinary lap with people going off the road, and yet relatively few umbrellas up. However, the race has been stopped. 25 laps completed by the leaders, so 24 by everybody. We will await confirmation as to whether the race is restarted or not. The cars are being brought down into the pit lane. The easy bit of that is Will Martin, the winner from Matty Graham and Cian Jewis, because that never really changed throughout after the good first lap from both Matty Graham and Cian Dewis. Will Martin, an absolute class act. Even though he'd been off the road as well, he was able to soak up everything, and when the flag came out, he was 5.6 seconds to the good. Let's catch up on one or two of the dramas then. This was Charles Rainford and Nathan Harrison almost coming together down at Graham Hill Bend. That was Charles Rainford going way out wide. That wasn't really to do with the weather conditions. That was just two cars very, very close to one another. And it was Ryan Ratcliffe that was able to benefit from that. Then we'd had Mark Ratcliffe's car off at the foot of Graham Hill. The next train of cars, I think, all running out of road as they came into Surtees, where Adhesion just suddenly disappeared. And look, four of them in a line, each driver measuring his pace against the one in front, just skated off the road and back on again. And then the next one, completely crossed up, arrives. That might have been Will Aspin's car, in fact, but thankfully was avoided by everybody. But you've got more cars on the grass. I think that was the bit that made race control shout for the red flag, with so many cars skating off the road at that part of the circuit, and especially with one in the middle of the road as well. But Will Aspin eventually able to get going. And this also, Mark Ratcliffe's car in a dangerous place as others arrived on the scene and oh so close to hitting it. So in the end, out came the red flag. Mark Ratcliffe getting going again. And that was Theo Edgerton scooping up grass in the front of the car as he bounced his way across the green bits on the inside of Clearways. The restart grid is going to line up with Will Martin on pole position. Matty Graham is going to start second ahead of Cian Dewis and Hugo Ellis, with Jack Bartholomew and Jake Giddings starting from row 3. Gus Burton is on row 4 with Will Aspin alongside, ahead then of Mika Stanley and Theo Edgerton. Next come Ryan Ratcliffe and Nathan Harrison. Charles Rainford and Oliver White will start from row 7 ahead of Seb Morris and Adam Smalley. Then it is Josh Stanton and Angus Whiteside. The 10th row is where you find Justin Sherwood and Charles Bateman, ahead of Nigel Rice and Mark Radcliffe, with Peter Kyle-Henney and Peter Mangin on the back row. A safety car restart for round 3 of Porsche Carrera Cup GB, and when they go racing, it will be just 5 minutes on the clock. What went before counts only for the restart grid. The result will be from this 5-minute segment. It'll be the shortest Carrera Cup GB race in history. The man that rather dominated part 1 is Will Martin, and he will start at the front of the queue. Behind him, though, is Matty Graham. The cars accelerate their way now up through Clark Curve. Cian Dewis runs third. But it's a complete reset now as we go racing, and the battle is on for second place, because Dewis there goes to the outside line as they head into paddock. Matty Graham has the inside line as they turn right, drop downhill. It's a very slippery track surface. They're on wet tyres. They've had 2 laps behind the safety car to assess the conditions. Dewis goes for the inside line. Graham goes way, way deep into the corner, runs out of road. Loses second, he's down to third, but Cian Dewis is making light work of these conditions. He was nowhere in the dry, but now he's got a real chance of winning the race, which is going to be really bad luck for Will Martin, who led 25 laps in the dry. He's about to lose the lead in the wet. Dewis is all over him like a rash now. Up towards Clearways they come. Clock ticks on down, not laps, it's time. 5 minutes, that's all. And as far as Will Martin is concerned, now it's all about defence. Hugo Ellis is off the road. That's really bad news, because he dominated Pro-Am before the red flag, and now he is off the road, and others are just skating off the circuit at Surtees. Up towards paddock go the race leaders. Up front, Will Martin. Right there behind him, Cian Dewis almost in the back of him now. Martin has not got the speed, but he's got a wide car. He defends on the run up the hill now. To the outside line goes Dewis. You might get a bit more grip on the outside line. It's worth trying, but it doesn't work. And now Matty Graham in the black red line car tries to get up into that battle as well. Cian Dewis for Team Parker Racing is second. For Comline Richardson Racing, Will Martin leads. The next section is where people are skating off the road. This is the wettest part of the circuit. They turn in, Dewis goes a little bit deep, gets away with it though, and closes as they head up towards McLaren and then into Clearways now. 3 for the lead, tiptoeing around the circuit. Back onto the power then comes the race leader, Will Martin. If he can hang on in there, he will richly deserve this. To the timing line they come. 3 minutes and change on the clock now. Fastest lap of 53.8. I mean, qualifying in the dry, they were doing 45s, and that off the road is Nigel Rice, and that's up at Druids, I rather fear. Now, is that going to be another interruption to this? Don't forget, these are big, powerful cars. 510 horsepower in these conditions, which are very greasy rather than fully wet. They are a real handful, and you can see who the star drivers are. Nose to tail for the race lead. Will Martin has to defend. Cian Jewis has shaken off Matty Graham's challenge. Matty might be waiting for it to end in tears ahead of him, but as they turn into Surtees this time, and then into McLaren, 2.5 minutes remain on the clock. Will Martin leads under intense pressure, no question about it. Over the line they come once more. Matty Graham third, falling away just a little bit now, and that off the road is Angus Whiteside. Gets back on again, the Pro-Am driver, the Ginetta Academy graduate. Yellow lights wave there at paddock because you've got the Nigel Rice car off the road up at Druids. So the light blinks as they're into Druids goes Will Martin. Jewis is right there behind him. Matty Graham tries to close back up again. There's certainly time for this lap and one more as they come down now into Graham Hill Bend. Will Martin can drive as slowly as he likes really here to make sure he keeps grip as long as he doesn't leave the door open and invite Cian Jewis up the inside. Theo Edgerton, who had it off on his way to the grid, has done the fastest lap of the race. Gus Burton there is on the back of Jack Bartholomew. Gus Burton qualified third, made a right pox at the start, and he's trying to fight back now in this restart. Up towards the line he comes then as the leaders flash up towards the timing line. They're going to get 2 more laps out of this, in fact, as they come through. And Will Martin leads the way by 0.296 of a second from Cian Jewis, and then Matty Graham in third. And Matty banking the points, I think, now. He's not interested in heroics. Other championship rivals, Edgerton and Smalley, were off the road earlier on as well. So he is ahead of them, and he's banking points. Jewis on the power. The car squirms underneath him as they drop downhill again here. There's time for one more lap at the end of this. And again, as the top 2 squabble, so that does bring back into the game Matty Graham. Look how much closer to Cian Jewis he is now. Whether he's prepared to force the issue remains to be seen. There's another race for these cars later in the day. We've lost Jake Giddings and Peter Mangian to the pit lane as the cars then now make the run again up towards Clark Curve and on to the start of the last lap. Graham looking closer to Jewis than Jewis does to Will Martin. There through is Ryan Ratcliffe versus Charles Rainford. This is for second in Pro-Am. They could barely be closer, side by side as they come off the corner. Up towards the timing line, they will be side by side on the approach to paddock. Ryan Ratcliffe in the yellow and white and black colours on the inside line should be able to hang on to the place, but Charles Rainford is brave and he's right round the outside. Brilliant move, but he gets it all sideways on that painted curb and he still hangs on to that. That was fantastic stuff, and Charles Rainford deserves that place. He goes through up now into the top 10 and crucially second in class. Adam Smalley has done the fastest lap of the race, and now the race leader, Will Martin, under attack from Cian Jewis, is heading towards the checkered flag. They turn through clearways, and there you can see Will Martin as slow as anything to cover off the inside line. Gently applies the power up towards the line. He richly deserves this win. Will Martin wins round 3 of Carrera Cup GB. Cian Jewis takes second. Matty Graham takes third ahead of Jack Bartholomew fourth. Gus Burton is fifth. As we go racing, sluggish start by Gus Burton from third. There's another car on the grass down at Graham Hill Bend. There are 4 of them off at Surtees. So now drivers are getting themselves in all sorts of strife. Cars arriving backwards at clearways now. There are cars going everywhere. And the red flag is being shown. Race stop, a safety car restart for round 3 of Porsche Carrera Cup GB. Jewis goes for the inside line. Graham goes way, way deep into the corner, runs out of road. Loses second, he's down to third. Gently applies the power up towards the line. He richly deserves this win. Will Martin wins round 3 of Carrera Cup GB. Round 3 of Carrera Cup GB then at a soggy Brands Hatch, won by Will Martin from Cian Jewis and Matty Graham third. Fourth, Jack Bartholomew from Gus Burton, and then the Pro-Am winning Will Aspin. Theo Edgerton 7th ahead of Mika Stanley and Adam Smalley. Charles Rainford 10th overall, second in Pro-Am. Ryan Ratcliffe 11th, Seb Morris up to 12th after a qualifying shunt. 13th goes to Oliver White ahead of Nathan Harrison and then Charles Bateman. Angus Whiteside behind. Josh Stanton just wins Am ahead of Justin Sherwood by 67 thousandths of a second, with Peter Kyle Henney 19th and Mark Radcliffe behind them. Hugo Ellis, who dominated Pro-Am in the dry, spun in the wet, finishes 21st. We lost Jake Giddings and Nigel Rice and also Peter Mangian. Over Theo Edgerton to 6 points with Adam Smalley third, and then Will Martin's race win bringing him up to 4th ahead of Cian Jewis and then Gus Burton. It's Jack Bartholomew 7th from Seb Morris and Mika Stanley, and the top 10 in Pro completed by Jake Giddings. Nathan Harrison only now has a 3-point cushion over Will Aspin in Pro-Am. Ryan Ratcliffe third. Josh Stanton's getting away though in the Am contest. He's 13 points clear now of Justin Sherwood. Mark Radcliffe is in third place.